Chapter 9. As the week progressed, Nikolai knew the Sabbath problem wasn't going to go away. He was going to have to face it. Several times he wondered how he should break the news to the warden, but there seemed to be no good way to do it, and no good time either. The warden kept to himself and didn't invite many visitors to his office. One thing for sure, he had Nikolai's file in his office, and sooner or later it would probably be used against him. The Sabbath hadn't been a specific problem on Nikolai's record. The thing that had gotten him into trouble had been his unwillingness to cooperate with the KGB and give them a list of his church members. But would the Sabbath be a problem now? Nikolai could hardly imagine that it wouldn't, since the warden had reminded him that obeying the camp rules was extremely important, and Nikolai hadn't heard that there were any days off for rest or recreation. As Thursday and then Friday came, Nikolai knew a showdown was imminent. On Sabbath morning, long before the roosters were crowing over the chicken coop, Nikolai was up, restless and waiting for the will of God to be revealed. "What is it you have in store for me?" Nikolai whispered as he knelt in the early morning shadows of the sod barracks. "I know you want me to be your witness, and I know I may have to suffer for your sake. But how am I to know your plans for me?" But the voice of God was strangely silent, and Nikolai knew that this one of those times when he would simply have to wait for God to lead. When he heard the other prisoners in his barracks begin to stir, he knew the time was fast approaching. And since God had not told him what to do, Nikolai made a decision. He would go out to the roll call, but not to breakfast or his work assignment. After roll call, he would return to the base to fast and pray. Come what may, this was his decision. He would stick by it. And that was it. It was as though God had been waiting for Nikolai to make a decision about the Sabbath and then act on it. It was this moment of decision that gave Nikolai the confidence he had been lacking all the week. Suddenly, he could see things clearly, as though a window of opportunity had opened. He was standing on the threshold of another great moment in his life. He sensed that things were going to be very hard for him that he had made now that he had made this decision, but he wanted to go through with it anyway. After roll call, he did exactly as he had planned. He returned to the barracks, knelt down again on the hard dirt floor by his bunk, began to pray. And every moment that passed took him closer to the inevitable confrontation he knew was coming. It didn't come as soon as he had expected, and he should have guessed as much. No one would know that he hadn't shown up for his work assignment except Vadim, and the carpenter might simply think that Nikolai had been asked to work somewhere else for the day. But finally the moment of truth arrived. About mid-morning, Nikolai heard one of the guards outside talking to another prisoner. "Where's Panchak?" the gravely voice demanded. "I haven't seen him," came the reply. It was almost noon before Nikolai was finally discovered in the barracks, and when he was, it seemed the whole world was caving in. "What are you doing here?" the guard demanded. "Are you sick?" Nikolai knew that if he said he was sick, they might let him off for the day, but that wouldn't fix the problem. The following week, he would be in the barracks again, and the likelihood of his being sick 2 Sabbaths in a row would certainly be cause for suspicion. Nikolai knew he needed to deal with the Sabbath issue now. He needed to face this problem head on, no matter what the consequences. It was the only way. "I'm not sick," Nikolai said plainly, getting to his feet. "Then why are you in here?" the guard asked incredulously. as though expecting some sort of ridiculous answer. And he got one. I can't work today because it's the seventh day Sabbath of the Lord my God. The seventh day what? The guard yelled, standing stock still. The seventh day is God's holy Sabbath, and I'm forbidden to work on it. The Bible is very. The Bible? Nikolai was cut short by the guard. It was obvious the guard hadn't seen this coming, and it gave Nikolai a chance to take the explanation a bit further. The Bible is God's holy word, and in it he tells me I should worship him on the seventh day Sabbath in honor of the world's creation. Nikolai would have liked to say more, but he knew the guard would never let him finish. And he was right. I don't know what you're talking about, the guard interrupted again, finally getting his bearings. It doesn't matter what day it is. We work every day around here. On your feet, Panchak. I won't have any slackers in these barracks. But Nikolai made no move to go, and this infuriated the guard even more. I'll teach you to disobey orders, he shouted again. His face turned purple with rage. He pulled a nightstick from his belt and began to beat Nikolai on the head and shoulders. Nikolai didn't have time to do anything but cover his head with his hands and arms. It hurt, but he was able to deflect the worst blows of the beating. Now, get to your work assignment, the guard shouted. Vadim is looking for you. Both Nikolai and the guard were breathing hard by now, but Nikolai still made no move to go. I'm sorry, but I can't work, Nikolai repeated the words quietly. It's forbidden for me to work on God's holy day. At this, the guard let loose with a steady stream of curses and began to beat Nikolai mercilessly with his fists. Then he grabbed Nikolai by his shirt collar and dragged him out the door into the barracks courtyard. By now the commotion was so great that the other prisoners were looking toward them to see what the noise was all about. We'll see about this seventh day holy Sabbath of yours, he shouted uncontrollably. We'll just take you to the warden and see what he says about all this. He'll know what to do with the likes of you.